I woke up with a sore throat that morning, and by lunchtime, I was starting to feel worse. I didn't think it was an emergency, but I also didn't want to wait several more days. So I decided to call a nearby medical clinic and see if they had any appointments available. When the receptionist answered, I said, "Hi, I'd like to make an appointment to see a doctor." She asked whether I was a new patient or had been there before. I told her I'm a new patient. She took my name and then asked what I was coming in for. I said, "I've had a sore throat since yesterday and I'm feeling a little worse today." She sounded sympathetic and asked if I was hoping to come in that same day. I said, yes, if possible. I could hear her typing while she checked the schedule. After a few seconds, she said, "I'm afraid we're fully booked for the rest of today." I was disappointed, but I asked, "What's your earliest opening?" She told me the earliest appointment was the next day at 2:30 in the afternoon. The problem was that I had a work meeting at exactly that time. So I asked, "Do you have anything earlier in the day?" She checked again, but the whole morning was already booked. For a second, I thought I might just have to take the afternoon appointment and figure something out. Then she said, "I can put you on our cancellation list if you'd like." I had never done that before, so I asked how it worked. She explained, "If someone cancels, we'll give you a call." That sounded much better. I said, "Yes, please. If anything opens up in the morning, I'd love to take it." She made a note of that and then asked if I wanted to keep the 2:30 appointment in the meantime. I thought that was a smart idea because at least I would still have a backup. So I said, "Yes, please hold the 2:30 appointment for me." She booked it and added me to the cancellation list at the same time. Before we hung up, she confirmed my phone number. She said, "We'll call you if an earlier spot becomes available." I thanked her and went back to work. Honestly, I wasn't expecting the clinic to call again. But later that afternoon, my phone rang. It was the same clinic. The receptionist said, "We just had a cancellation for tomorrow morning at 10:30. I immediately said, "That's perfect. I can take it." She asked if I wanted to switch my appointment from 2:30 to 10:30. I said, "Yes, please. I'll take the 10:30. She changed the appointment and reminded me that because I was a new patient, I should arrive about 15 minutes early. I asked, "Do I need to bring anything with me?" She told me to bring my health card or insurance card. She also said there would be a short new patient form for me to fill out when I arrived. I wrote everything down so I wouldn't forget. The next morning, I left home early because I really didn't want to miss the appointment. Of course, that was the morning traffic decided to move at half speed. I kept looking at the clock and getting more nervous. Finally, I called the clinic from the car using hands-free mode. I said, "Hi, this is Emily Chen. I have a 10:30 appointment this morning." Then I explained, "I'm on my way, but traffic is moving really slowly. I may be about 10 minutes late. Is that okay?" The receptionist thanked me for letting them know. She said, "We have a 15-minute grace period, so you should be fine." I felt relieved immediately. She added, "If you're going to be more than 15 minutes late, just give us another call." I told her I would and thanked her for understanding. Luckily, traffic finally started moving again. I pulled into the parking lot with a few minutes to spare. When I walked up to the front desk, I said, "Hi, I'm Emily Chen. I'm here for my 10:30 appointment." The receptionist found my appointment and asked to see my health card. I handed it to her and said, "Of course, here you go." Because it was my first visit, she gave me a short form to complete. I asked, "Can I fill it out here?" She smiled and said, "Absolutely. Just bring it back to me when you're finished." A few minutes later, I returned the form. She checked me in and said, "Please have a seat. The doctor will call your name shortly." I thanked her and finally sat down. Then she looked at the clock and said, "You made it with a few minutes to spare." I laughed and said, "I know." I was worried I'd missed the appointment. She smiled and said, "You made it. You're all set now." By the time I finally sat down in the waiting room, I felt relieved. The whole process had seemed stressful at first, but once I knew what to say, it was actually much easier than I expected. And the next time I needed to make a doctor's appointment in English, I knew I wouldn't feel nearly as nervous. If this kind of real-life English helps you feel a little more prepared for everyday situations, consider subscribing to the channel. I'll keep sharing practical English you can actually use in real life. See you in the next episode.